Previously on the Seventh Valkyrie, the night's last star sends the nightmare crashing to an end. Is it the beginning of a new day or merely a flash of hope against a darkening sky? Find out next on the Seventh Valkyrie.
Chapter 36. Daybreak. The 22nd day of winter, at the break of dawn.
You think you're a god? You break like the rest. You die like the rest.
The brutal words of the Iron Wolf echoed around the broken body as it fell towards the water, hundreds of feet below the broken bridge, narrowly missing the metal barges and plunging deep below the surface. The body's oblivion power was still just barely functioning, enough to protect it from being turned into paste on impact with the water. And as the body sank, dying and wrapped in the remnants of ultra-black power, it felt no physical sensation from its lethal injuries. Instead, only the broken and beaten feelings blended between 3 decades drifted through the void. Some functions still went on due to the body's natural programming, but even though the mouth opened and closed, it sucked in water that then wisped away into nothing, and slowly the returning lights of the night sky began to fade above for different reasons. The void could erase the liquid in the body's lungs, but it could not provide, not oxygen or blood or bone structure or any of the body's many pressing needs. And so the void simply offered the embrace of true darkness, an unspoken promise that the brief moment awake and the falling and the fear that had accompanied it was all just a dream. The body and the girl who inhabited it could go back to sleep and finally find peace. That was all she had wanted, really, all along, just some peace. And even as the jaws of an enormous beast cut through the water and closed on her, she felt calm and just let herself drift away. But the great wolf called May by the free people of the new city had other ideas. Clasping BC gently in her jaws, May lifted what remained of her head of security out of the water, then paddled to the old city with enormous strokes and bounded upriver to the east, getting as far as she could in 3 enormous leaps before she laid the unconscious BC on the riverbank. It became quickly clear that unconscious did not describe the situation accurately. BC was mostly dead, and so May moved with the desperation of knowing that even the strongest healer could not make a dead rabbit run. There was no time to shift back to her human form, and anyways, in her primal state, May's power was far stronger. So with no regard to her vows of secrecy or who might be watching, May reached out with the call of the wild to the trees, and the earth to the plants and the animals, to the flowers in the sky, beseeching them, commanding them lend their strength as she tried to save BC. And the collective force of the mountains, the soil, and the river itself woke to her call, flowing towards May's enormous wolf form, and she channeled it all into BC's body. Like a raging green river, life force swelled up and flowed into the girl beneath her, where the curse had become so intertwined with BC's black blood and veins and bones that it might not ever fully fade. Wherever May's power rearranged punctured organs, shifted bones back into place, and pulled the shattered picture of BC back together, she could feel remnants. There were traces of the oblivion woven into BC now, down to the deepest might of energy. But May couldn't stop. The muscles of BC's hips reset, and the bone knitted back together and started to heal. The shards of her sternum and ribcage uneasily reconnected, and around them new muscles and veins began to grow, bringing lifeblood, real lifeblood, to the damaged, crushed, and punctured organs regrowing beneath them. And last, the power began to reconstruct BC's broken skull, where her face had caved in and punctured the brain behind it. The Oblivion's effect showed more clearly there, weaving in along the cracks as May's power slowly rebuilt the girl's face. When the skin knitted back together and her facial structure crunched back into place, they were now covered by a spiderweb of new black tattoos where the Iron Wolf had broken her. BC would never look the same, but that was not what scared May most as she finished repairing the physical body of the broken girl. BC's heart had begun to beat, but the emptiness ran ragged in her body, settling into her very essence, and now, activated and responding to May's power, it was threatening to multiply and consume BC, return her to the darkness she had already resigned herself to. With every cell May repaired, others flickered in and out, and now as May pushed more and more power into the girl, she could feel it being willed away and weakened. But that ancient wolf would not lose a daughter without a fight. With a howl to the moon, May turned from asking and suggesting to demanding the life force of the earth and the plants around her. She tapped into every last gem and soul stone on her body until they shattered, and emptied every reserve of power dwelling within her, even that which she needed to sustain her wolf soul form. And when she had gathered it all, May knelt, and with the lips of a human, she kissed BC's forehead. The riverbank shone green, and between them there was a passing of time, a river of moments, of the dark assassin that had been sent for May, and the forgiveness that the wolf had shared as she nursed the girl back to health. There were flashes of their growing bond, their daring plan to break free of BC's contract, and the last chance game that May had played to win BC's freedom. They scattered in with fragments and memories of the 3 years that they had spent together. And that was all that May had to give in her last-ditch effort. With a mournful cry, May collapsed next to BC, tears streaming down her face, no energy left to even hold herself on all fours. For a painful eternity, May lay face down, too dazed to weep, eyes in the dirt, praying to the gods and the spirits that she had done enough. She had given all she had, and it still might not be enough. You know, there are times where I still wish that I could feel those kinds of feelings. May's blood went cold. She could still not move, but she could reach out with her senses. And with them, she witnessed the Machine King's iron boots punching through the dirt as he stepped along the riverbed. I wonder what all these feelings are for. Are you happy? Are you sad or frustrated? Are you afraid now? Tired? It's been over a decade since I last wept, and that was with who knows how many substances to aid me. Would you care to share more about those feelings?
Hey there! If you're hearing this, it means you're listening to the public version of this episode. I appreciate you taking the time and your interest in the series. It really helps the algorithm, it helps us grow. But if you are enjoying the show, maybe take a look over at our Patreon. We have uncut versions of the early episodes, access to new chapters before they're released for the general public, and you can shape the future of the series by deciding on new merch drops, bonus content, and more. You can get started for free at patreon.com/Seventh Valkyrie. That's patreon.com/7THVALKYRIE. Hope to see you there.